Minority leader Haruna Idrisu is accusing President Akufo-Addo of dishonesty when he claimed during a visit to the Upper West region that he inherited an empty treasury. The president, in response to demands by chiefs for infrastructure, asked them to give him a lot more time to deliver on his promises because he needs to work from the bottom as a result of the bad economy he inherited. But the minority leader says the president would not have been able to even keep the country running if that was the case.
I should think that as President of the Republic, he owes a Ghanaian citizen a certain frankness, and he has a responsibility to be candid. To say that he has inherited a challenged economy, nobody will fault him for that. But to say empty coffers, what new tax policy measures has he brought as president? None. Yet the country is being governed. State institutions are functioning and functioning properly thanks to what he has inherited. So for me, what is important is that he has inherited viable and strong institutions, because I'm not aware that the president has introduced any tax policy. So how is he able to run government? How is he able to pay workers? The infrastructure going on, he's depending on some inheritance.
Haruna Idrisu also accused the president of taking undeserved credit for the Wa water project, which he says was started by the NDC administration.
Now, what is even more regrettable, and for you, the media, you must call the president to answer, $50 million. He attributes this project to President Kufuor. That is not candid. This $50 million project from the Korean government is part of what they have chastised and bastardized the NDC over debt. Part of the money was to improve and increase access to water supply to Wa and its surrounding areas. We borrowed, but we borrowed for a good cause. We borrowed, and we borrowed for a just cause. But I think that one of the things which should help the politics of our country is for us to begin to acknowledge and give praise when we have to, and recognition where we have to. Like it or not, a 7-man government could not have given birth to that pregnant water supply and expanded access to water supply. It's not practically possible. It is one of the positive inheritance. He may have inherited some negatives, no doubt about it.
Well, President Akufo-Addo has since left the Upper West region, where he made those claims that the minority is challenging. The president is now in the Upper East region, and Albert Sorry, our correspondent, is joining me. Hello, Albert. What has the president been saying in the Upper East region?
Yes, Israel. So the president has been addressing a number of chiefs here in Bolgasanga, and he's been talking about the fact that his government is committed to delivering on the promises they made to the people of this country in the run-up to the 2016 election. And he used the senior high school policy, which has now been launched and is currently has currently started as the example to show that, despite the fact that people, their political opponents thought that this was not something they would be able to achieve, they are committed to doing so, and that they are still committed to delivering on the rest of the promises that they made to the people of this country before the election. And he said that, for him as a politician, one thing that he believes in is that once you promise the people to do something when you get elected, then you must be committed to doing that once you get the opportunity to lead them. He's also been responding to some issues that were raised, some concerns that the regional House of Chiefs Vice President put across to him as some of the things they want him to do besides the senior high school policy. He talked about the Kwalugu tomato factory and the Zuarungu meat factory, which used to be functioning long ago but are no longer functioning. And he told the president that for them as chiefs, even though the MPP has promised to give the country, a factory in every district, they want that for now, maybe they can work on the tomato factory as well as the meat factory as regional factories, not necessarily part of the one district, one factory, one policy. There are other things that he also talked about, which included roads. And the vice president of the House of Chiefs, the chief of Bongo, was telling the president that even though the government has a lot of policies it intends to deliver to the people, he did not think that these things will really manifest well if the road network in the country is not good. And he cited examples of some of the roads in the district, in the Talinsi areas as well as the Bongo areas, where some communities have virtually been cut off from each other because of bad road networks in the area. And so they put these concerns across to the president, to which in his response he said that he said, just like he said in the Upper West region, that the previous government had touted their achievements, said that they had delivered a lot of infrastructures, including working seriously on the road infrastructure. And so he found it difficult to understand why the issue of roads are still coming up, despite the NDC government touting that they had worked on the road. And so for him, these are things that, the NDC only talked about, but did not necessarily do. And his government is on the way to fixing these things, just like, they had promised during the electioneering campaign.
Now, he talked about empty coffers in the Upper West region. Those claims are being contested by the minority. Did he react to it at all?
Well, he did not. But one thing that he said during, before he spoke, the roads minister got the opportunity to speak on the same issue of roads. And one thing he pointed out was that contractors that were working on roads during the time of the previous government had abandoned the work because they were not being paid. And their government promised that once they get the opportunity to leave this country, they were going to ensure that contractors get paid as they deserve, and for some of them to continue the work they had been doing, which he mentioned a figure that I cannot immediately recall, but he said that they had already started paying these monies to contractors. He said it as a matter of fact that this morning there were some of the contractors that actually called him to confirm that monies that had been paid to them had hit their account.
All right.
But they did not specifically respond to the issues that are being contested at the moment.
All right, thank you very much. Albert Sorry with bringing us that update from the Upper East region. Now we're returning to Parliament. We're concerned about the high cost of houses in the country. MPs are demanding firm implementation of the National Housing Policy to make low-cost houses available for all. They made the remarks when Minister for Works and Housing Samuel Atachia appeared before the House to deliver a statement to mark World Habitat Day. He assured government has put in place several measures to deliver on the campaign promise to expand affordable housing to the vulnerable.
This year's World Habitat Day celebration is significant because it's taking place during a period of great potential for housing development. It is therefore appropriate for us to take stock of our accomplishments and challenges in areas of policy implementation, as well as our human settlements and access to adequate housing. To ensure that this vision is properly understood by all and effectively implemented, we need to urgently address crucial aspect of housing affordability. Today, the city has become a magnet of hope, as this is where everyone expects to find the beating heart of trade, industry and construction, and its spin-offs, such as jobs, both menial and skilled. The increasing population growth and rapid urbanization have contributed to the shortage of adequate, affordable housing in many of our capital cities. As a government, we are committed to achieving our targets encompassed in the Sustainable Development Goals and the new urban agenda. This year's celebrations are quite special as they coincide with the first anniversary of the new urban agenda adopted in Habitat 3 in Quito, Ecuador. The new urban agenda enshrines a new vision of urbanization as an indispensable engine for development and a prerequisite for prosperity and growth. The government is determined to address the housing deficit through partnerships with the private sector in the provision of affordable housing units of different typologies to meet the demands of Ghanaians.
Some minority MPs are, however, not convinced about the effectiveness of government's plan to make housing available to all. Kwame Agboja is NDC MP for Adaklu.
We are all aware we are told about 1.7 million housing unit deficit. I can tell you for a fact, I'm an industry player. As far as I'm aware, I'm the only architect sitting here in Parliament at the moment. I haven't seen any policy in the past. I haven't seen any policy currently that tells me that we have a potential of even building 100,000 housing units a year. It doesn't exist. Parts of the problems are dotted around many places: land acquisition, outmoded building regulations, outmoded building code, everlasting litigation in the courts, the building construction technology, some of them are just too outmoded, and many things. I think we have come to a point where we need a bigger national dialogue on what we can do to improve the delivery of housing in this country. A house is a product, so it responds to demand and supply. Currently, we are not providing enough houses to the people who need it. When State Housing builds a 3-unit house and sells it for 300,000, this is not a company that is necessarily supposed to be making profit. So if governments own entity selling a 3-bedroom house for 300,000 cedis, it means even a member of parliament cannot buy it. So what is the definition of affordability? And that is why I'm saying that when we have this broad-based, deeper consultation with the stakeholders in the built environment, let's take the engineers, architects, planners, the bankers, insurance company, the land people involved in land and other things, then we can come up with a policy that addresses all these things, not only the housing, the issues about sustainability and energy supply. Like I was telling Speaker, you would have thought that the most sustainable buildings in this country would have been buildings built by government themselves. Parliament should have been a building of an example, because the energy we consume in buildings also add to the running cost of buildings. So I think that the issue is much more complicated than a government saying that their manifesto says that. In fact, when the minister says their manifesto say they are going to address the housing policy, did he tell you how they are going to address it?
You're watching Joy News Prime. We're taking a break, but still ahead in the bulletin. Vice President Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia has been sharing details of Ghana's digital addressing system to be launched by the end of October. He says will provide precise addresses for 16.1 billion locations in the country, including tabletop food vendors. Also, police arrest acting regional organizer of the governing New Patriotic Party over fraud allegations. We will be live in the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi, to speak with our correspondent Erastus Asaredonko. Stay tuned, we'll be back in a bit. Welcome back to Joy News Prime. Police in the Ashanti region have arrested the acting regional organizer of the New Patriotic Party for fraud. Daniel Ejenim Boating is accused of taking some 11,400 Ghana cedis from 7 people he allegedly promised to recruit into the military and national security. The complainant, Collins Yeboah, popularly known as Kurfum Yeboah, tells Love News all attempts to get the money or jobs for the people have proved futile. Let's listen to it.
Oh, they see and say, no, Daniel Ejenim Boating, far from say, Akunya, be a bed down for national security and military.
Daniel Boateng called to inform me there's an opportunity to enlist people in the national security, the military, and another agency, and that it will cost 2,000 for those who want to be enlisted in the military and national security. So there were 5 of them. I sent the monies to him. In some cases, went with the parents. We even sent it via mobile money. But soon after we made the payment, we didn't hear from him. He's not been picking our calls. So I organized the parents and we reported him to the police.
Several times. My phone no a friend phone so police phone Dimas mama me kwampa me faso a me faso ma me saka ni panisika de wo mu ade ma wo
didn't na wo mu akasa apply normal way na na wo gidi sonko bi woni mu so betimi abo.
Oh yes, no de regional organizer.
Well, he's a regional organizer and I'm only a coordinator, so I believed he was highly connected.
Coordinator, crew from lecture area, crew from west. But I say, Tina Mujidi will say at least or high, and you wait me up. That's the point I'm a so, Milidia, and also a friend, and the man follow ya.
So was the complainant, Collins Jabwa, speaking there with Erastus Asari Donko. And Erastus has joined me on the line. He's been following the story and he has the details. Hello, Erastus. Where is Mr. Ejanim Boateng at the moment?
Well, at the moment he has been granted bail and he has agreed to pay a part of the money on Friday. And then he has agreed to that. And based on that, the police have granted him bail. And currently, he's out of the Tafo Pankrono police station.
Erastus, we missed a bit of what you had to say. You were saying that he had agreed to pay the amount by a certain time. Just repeat that.
He has agreed to pay the money, part of it on Friday. And he has agreed to pay the rest the following week. And so the complainant says he is okay with that for the moment. And so he's waiting to see how much will be paid on Friday and how much will be paid the following week, because the people he took the money from are really angry and are pestering him for their monies.
Now, we've heard from the complainant, but what have the police been telling you about this case and whether for them that's it? If Ejanim Boateng has agreed to settle, does it mean that they were withdrawing the case?
Well, the police are tight-lipped on the matter for the moment. I went to the divisional crime officer and he confirmed to me that yes, indeed, Daniel Ejanim Boateng, the acting regional organizer, has been arrested. He was writing his statement at that time, and so I should allow him to finish his statement. But when he completed the statement, I went in back to meet the crime officer, but I learned he was out for a meeting. We have tried some other sources to get information from the police, but they have declined comment at the moment. So they have not an official statement on what they intend to go, the length they intend to go with this particular case.
All right, now Erastus, one other issue that's bugging residents of Kumasi is the water situation. Apparently, there's lack of running water for some days now. What's the current situation? Well,
we have received a word from the Ghana Water Company Limited that the works on some of their substations were supposed to end yesterday so that residents could get water, but then they were not able to finish, so they are still working. And they've asked their consumers to bear with them. In the coming days, they are going to get water. People have started carrying gallons around, searching for water. There are also residents of Ofurikrum, for example, who had some water in the middle of the night flowing through their taps, though dirty. So people are going around searching for water at the moment.
All right, thank you very much, Erastus Asari Donko, and we do apologize for the brief breaks in the live connection there to Kumasi. In other news, Chief Justice Ufai Akufu has lamented the poor conditions of service workers of the judicial service have to endure in dispensing justice. According to her, successive governments have failed the service by not providing the appropriate infrastructure and systems to make them effective and efficient. The Chief Justice was speaking at the 37th Annual General Meeting of the Association of Magistrates and Judges in Ghana. Now, Anyoko Ajay's report.
Tasked with the mandate of delivering quality judgment and settling disputes, the judiciary, like other agencies, has some peculiar needs. Speaking on the issue, judiciary, a bastion of democracy, Chief Justice Sophia Ekufo identified the lack of key infrastructure as a major challenge hindering effective justice delivery.
The finances of the judiciary should be based on a particular percentage of the national budget. That is what it is to be based on. One of the clearest examples of government failing the judicial sector is the shabby courtrooms that we have. There has already been a listing of some of the shortcomings in the environment in which we work. They are unsafe. I will say that some of the premises are even unhygienic, and they are unsuitable, they are unfit for use in the delivery of justice, because it even tarnishes our image.
The Chief Justice further noted the service is far advanced with the electronic case management system, which she believes will promote efficiency in the service.
It's a system which really must be, it must be integrated into what we do. And what we do starts from the district court and ends at the Supreme Court. There has to be integration, and that is one of my passionate objectives. Furthermore, having spoken about what we don't have, how well are we using what we have? Because if we have electronic case management system, as I understand case management, it is not only the electronic aspect of it. It is building efficiency into the entire case management process, from the moment a matter is filed up to when judgment is delivered. And the objective is to create efficiency and also thereby reduce backlog.
She appealed to government to, as a matter of urgency, address challenges plaguing the judicial service to enhance effective delivery.
The drivers, who were clad in red armbands, singing and chanting slogans, say they voted for President Akufo-Addo because he promised to reduce fuel prices. They say they feel betrayed by the government for doing contrary to what it promised. They are angry, alleging their leaders has collaborated with government to refuse any transport fare increments, though fuel prices have been increased more than once. They are therefore giving government a 3-day ultimatum to reduce fuel prices, or they will picket at the Energy Ministry on Monday, October 9. Secretary of the group, Mohammed Mamboni, spoke to Joy News.
As we are talking, the fuel, when then government was on power, the fuel was 14 cedi. Now, how come this government is on power? Then he has already promised us that he is coming so that our work will be easy for us, for the fuel will come down. Why should the fuel, should we buy for more than 22 cedi? It's cheating. The government is cheating us. We are working and the profit is going to the government. When you look at the fuel price now, the taxes are close to 50%, 49%. Why should we be working and paying taxes close to 49%? Do nothing about, they can do nothing to reduce the fuel price. So, and we are going to increase our fares to, the leaders are saying we shouldn't what? Increase our fare. It's total cheating. So we are telling the government to reduce the fuel price for us. If it's not going to sell it for 14 cedi, or it's not going to bring it down for us, then next week, by Friday, we are giving him by Friday, we want to hear from him. Or else, we are going to the ministries to sleep there because they made a promise they are going to reduce the fuel price for us. And the fuel price is not affecting us alone, but rather affecting all Ghanaians.
Other drivers and motorists also expressed disappointment and described government's decision as pocket galamsey.
Make some policy that when the government increase the fuel up to 10%, that one, you have the right to increase the fare. Now the government is using some strategy to steer us. You increase that to 8%, mean that it's not up to 10%, so you cannot increase it. And with that, you see that the government will use it to 1%, just 1% from the 8%. And later when you come out to increase it to maybe 9%, yes, still it's not up to the 10%. Now when you add up, when you pile it, it's almost 30%. But because he has not been able to increase it, because he uses a strategy to cheat us, so he's just using that tricks that, oh, that is not up to 10%, so you cannot increase it. And that's the contract that is signed with our leaders.
Akufo-Addo during the campaign season called Mahama a wicked man for high petrol prices. He promised to reduce prices if we vote him into power. Now he's doing otherwise. He has betrayed us.
Promote 50 pesos every petrol, so 70 pesos. I got to diesel, so
in September, prices for both petrol and diesel increased by some 7% and 5% respectively. Currently, the price of diesel has increased again by 1.63%, whereas petrol has decreased by 1.13%.
Hello again, good evening to you. Thanks for joining me on Business. Local oil marketing company GOIL has reduced petrol and diesel prices at its pumps across the country. Some stakeholders, including the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers and the Institute of Energy Security, had predicted hikes in petroleum prices before the opening of the second pricing window for October. However, speaking with Joy Business, Chief Operating Officer for GOIL, Alex Josiah Azel, said the over 5% reduction in petrol prices was because crude prices have relatively stabilized. He was of the view that other oil marketing companies will also reduce their prices to reflect the current conditions.
Petrol used to be at 4 cedis 41 pesos. Now we have come down to 4 cedis 36 pesos. So it means that we went down by 5 pesos. And then for diesel, I've realized that for diesel, others have gone up, but we have come down on the diesel by 2 pesos. So this is for the pricing window, and the signs are that it's still going down. So once it still goes down, you'll see further reductions. We are just praying that it will be sustained. You know, the conditions on the international market will sustain the going down of the product. And once it goes down, our open market price will reflect same.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
We are not an island on ourselves. The industry is very, very sensitive to what happens outside. So you will recall that the flooding situation in Texas and Houston, Florida, and where some of the refineries are located, and because of that, production became a problem, and all attention was turned onto those parts of the states. So what it meant was that any vessel that want to come to Africa, you have to pay higher premium, because all attention was on the U.S. So it made the price, go up. Fortunately and thankfully, prices have started stabilizing, and for petrol and the rest, we are seeing signs of it coming down. And as usual, we have always said that we always have the customers at heart. So anytime, we will not unnecessarily increase price. But if the international scene dictates that we have to do so, we do so. And thankfully, prices are getting down, so we had to quickly review our prices to move in tandem with the industry. And because we are the pace setters, I'm sure that very soon you'll see that everybody will follow suit. But I can assure you that we are among the first to, come down on prices to reflect the changes on the international market.
This is the second bidders conference for the PSP and ECG project activity of the Power Compact.
And what is the purpose of the conference?
You recall that sometime in August last year, we issued an RFP for the project. And in May,
what an RFP mean?
Request for proposals. It's basically a document inviting the whole world that we're doing this project, and that if you are interested, these are the rules. See whether you can engage with us. And in May this year, we had a first bidders conference. The purpose was to explain the request for proposals so that they can understand it from our perspective and give us a proposal. At that point, we needed to add some documents to the request for proposals. As we speak now, we have added all of those documents. So as it were, we have the full request for proposals, and this second bidders conference is designed to answer all their questions on the document and to look at their perspectives. But the main purpose is for us to bring clarity to the process so they understand it from our perspective, so they write a proposal that is fit for purpose.
So which are the companies that are here?
We have a number of companies. They include NG, that is led by a group from France. We have the CH group led by a Ghanaian company. We have Manila Electric Company of the Philippines. We have Tata and CDC from India, and we have BXC from China.
Is this any different from the bidders who came from the first bidders conference?
It's the same bidders that we have. We are explaining the process further so they can understand it and write a good proposal.
So help us understand what exactly has been taking place today.
What has been taking place today is that we are meeting one of the pre-qualified bidders. They have specific comments, questions, recommendations, etc. that we are addressing.
And this would continue with all the pre-qualified bidders?
Yes. If you look at the press release that we gave out, it is from the 2nd to the 6th. And on each day, we meet one pre-qualified bidder.
We sincerely apologize for the loss of sound earlier. Now, moving on, government has been advised to make water transport a major alternative means of transportation in the country, particularly for agricultural purposes. That's according to stakeholders at the Agri-Business Forum, which just ended, and we said, while saying they will also give greater access to various parts of the country at cheaper costs. Joy Business's Sheila Tamaklo was at the GIPC USAID Agribusiness Forum and now reports.
The Agribusiness Forum pulled players in the agri sector to discuss policy initiatives to improve as well as attract investments into the sector. Among the numerous suggestions was for government to explore water transport, especially to farmlands along the banks of the country's waters. Speaking to Joy Business, Chief Executive Officer of the Savannah Accelerated Development Authority, SADA, believes this would improve accessibility, especially to the northern parts of Ghana.
Where the lands are also the places which are difficult to reach. They are either marshy or that there are no feeder roads going into these large farmlands. But they may have waterways, that the rivers may still be flowing. But somehow we have neglected an investment in the rivers as sources of transport, not just places to catch fish and pump water into the land, but a means to travel from one place to the other. Fortunately, a good part of northern Ghana, starting from northern Brong-Ahafo and northern Volta going up, are properly supplied by rivers and streams. So we have to factor river transport, water transport into our transport mix, because most of our farmers cannot be accessed.
That's all in business tonight. Many thanks for watching. My name is Emmanuel Abuachi. Good evening.
Former Executive Secretary to former President Mahama and lecturer at the Faculty of Law at the University of Ghana, Dr. Raymond Atuguba, has condemned government's decision to create the office of a special prosecutor. He described the position as dependent and ordinary, adding an independent prosecutor cannot be truly independent. Atuguba encouraged Parliament to be bold and oppose the move by government. He was speaking at a public forum on parliamentary oversight and good governance held at the University of Ghana.
Under our current constitutional dispensation, no prosecutor in Ghana can be legally independent. Again, under our current constitutional dispensation, no prosecutor in Ghana can be legally special. Any attempt to pass a law that establishes the office of a prosecutor that purports to be special and or independent does not only do violence to Article 88 of our Constitution, but will not pass constitutional muster in the Supreme Court. Parliament must be congratulated for sending the bill for the establishment of that office back to whence it came. And Parliament must be bold enough to tell the executive that wasting time and resources on backing a bill that will be dead on arrival in Parliament is causing financial loss to the state. Every prosecutor in Ghana is within the meaning of Article 88 of the 1992 Constitution under the prosecutorial discretion, prosecutorial direction, and prosecutorial control of the Attorney General. Such a prosecutor is dependent on the Attorney General and can never be independent. Any Ghanaian lawyer who does not know this should not have passed constitutional law, criminal law, and criminal procedure exams. Again, every prosecutor in Ghana is given a charter by the Attorney General to prosecute. The so-called independent special prosecutor is dependent and ordinary. The 1992 Constitution is the fundamental law of the land. That law has vested all prosecutorial powers in one woman, the Attorney General. Absent an amendment of the Constitution, there is no iota of prosecutorial powers left anywhere to be given to anybody.
Majority Leader Osei Sambonsu, speaking on the responsibilities of parliamentary committees, said they need to be more resourced or better resourced to enable them perform the work diligently.
Some people say that the remnants, I have not said so and I will not say so, made the chairs of committees. That ab initio inflicts a mortal wound on the committees because the committee chairs are powerful. They set the agenda for the committees. Elsewhere, parliamentary committees are charged with the responsibility of investigating matters that are germane to the governance of the state. In Ghana's parliament, referrals necessarily have to be made in plenary to the committees. So you fancy a situation where there is an outbreak of cholera and the Committee of Health cannot on their own investigate the cholera outbreak. For instance, if maybe Parliament is on recess, you have to wait for the time when Parliament would resume, and perhaps a statement will be made on the floor, upon which the Speaker will make the necessary referral. That certainly cannot help us grow our Parliament. So the committees in Parliament, admittedly, are not doing very well. Committees are not made up of technical people. So elsewhere, we have allocations to committees. A fund is set aside, the committee engage experts, and they go ahead, inspect the project, raise technical issues, come and inform the committee, who, when they go, will ask these relevant questions. Our committees are not so resourced.
Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia says a digital address system with unique postal codes for every location in the country has already captured 16.1 billion addresses. Dr. Bawumia indicated the system, which will be launched by the end of October this year, together with online registration for businesses and permits, is expected to boost productivity. He was addressing a lecture on how to develop strong economies in Africa at the University of Cape Coast.
We are introducing, and you will be happy to hear, Ghana's digital address system with unique postcodes for every location within Ghana. For the longest time, you know, if you are looking for somebody's house, the cocoa seller on the right, the blue kiosk on the left, you know, by the gutter, before you get there. And then the day the cocoa seller doesn't appear, you are in trouble. So we have said that we want to implement. Ghana is huge, you know, by many standards, it's huge. There's so many villages, towns, and so on. We want to use the existing technology to implement a digital addressing system. So this is the task we set ourselves when we came into government. And that task has thankfully been accomplished. The digital addressing system is going to provide, for me, if I look at it and I'm biased, of course, it's going to provide us the most advanced addressing system in the world, period. This is what we are about to roll out. And it is more advanced, of course, than the United States or United Kingdom or Sweden or Germany, because they are stuck with old technology. We are leapfrogging, and we are going to new technology. We are going to GPS-based technology. So even if you are standing in the middle of the river Oti and you want your address, when we roll it out, you will know your address in the middle of the river Oti. It is unbelievable. We have been able to put together 16.1 billion addresses. Every 5 by 5 meter square part of Ghana has a unique address.
Dr. Bawumia stressed that the Kufuor administration insisted on value for money by opting for a digital system that could serve the needs of the country and only cost the taxpayer $2.5 million.
Even what is more exciting about this new address system is that it was actually designed by Ghanaians in Dansuma. Because we are so focused on value for money, I'm sure they wouldn't mind me saying this. When we were looking for this digital addressing system, you know, we had all sorts of proposals. Someone said 70 billion, someone said $70 million, someone said $100 million, and so on. But finally, after all the work that was done, this massive system, which is going to transform this economy, was only done for $2.5 million. That was it. We had major value for money in its production. And it was done in Ghana. So if you really focus on value for money, you can get it.
The Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, also put up a strong defense for the government's flagship free senior high school policy, which has seen first-year students enrolling for free. Dr. Bawumia said the increasing army of uneducated 15 to 25-year-olds with little or no working skills was doomed for the country, adding this worrying trend must be reversed.
The recently introduced free SHS signals government's determination to ensure the greatest number of our young people gain access to pre-university education. We cannot advance in technological innovation, we cannot take advantage of technology transfer and adoption, and we cannot nurture entrepreneurial skills without an inclusive access to education. Education for all is imperative in a world of rapid technological innovations. It is inconceivable that children should be denied access to education at the early age of 12 simply because of their financial circumstances. Enriching our human capital must begin early if the young are to develop skills of work, gain knowledge, and deepen their thinking and creative skills for enterprise and innovation.
Now, the introduction of government's free senior high school policy comes with expanded access through increased enrollment. The accompanying pressure on limited infrastructure and facilities, however, is already taking a toll on students and authorities. Besides the outcry over inadequate boarding space, dining facilities in quite a number of the schools are also overstretched, compelling students to stand whilst eating the promised free lunch for day students. Love FM's Kwesi Debra reports.
It's 12 p.m. Pantrymen arranged a familiar aluminium bowls. It contains supper for students of Osei Senior High School. Students are expected at the table in the next 40 minutes. They know without prompting when tables are set. This afternoon they will eat the popular gab beans, a mix of gari and beans. Students, especially males, aren't bothered to stand for lunch in a 30-year-old abandoned and deteriorating dining hall. Just a few meters in front of the girls' dormitory is another makeshift dining hall. In the scorching sun, they stand and eat. Never mind the discomfort. Some students are compelled by the unbearable heat to carry the food to the dormitory in breach of school regulations.
When it is raining, we have to hurry up and send the food to a place where we can eat. And sometimes we don't get to class early to eat, to learn, and that is also affecting our academics.
The free senior high school policy rolled out by government just weeks ago provides for day students to enjoy one free hot meal a day. Space and furniture are simply inadequate to accommodate the numbers. Mary Cromwell also is headmistress.
We have to go to the dining hall in batches.
Meanwhile, this 3-decade-old structure can only boast of multicolored dry lines adorning its frame. On a familiarization tour of the constituency, Member of Parliament for Tafu Pankrono visited the school. Dr. Anthony Akotose, who is also Minister for Monitoring and Evaluation, is full of praise for government for free senior high school.
You are lucky you have an opportunity to get free SHS. Notice my choice of words. I say you are lucky you have an opportunity to enjoy free SHS.
These students, however, would wish to enjoy it in a more cozy environment. Reporting for Joy News, Kwesi Deborah.
The minority spokesperson on employment, Dr. Kwabena Donkor, wants government to immediately intervene in the reported dismissal by GCB Bank of some of the staff it inherited from the defunct Capital Bank and UT Bank. It has been reported some 700 staff of the defunct banks have been served dismissal letters, even though Joy News checks suggest a much lower number of workers have been affected. But Dr. Kwabena Donkor says government would have to get management of GCB to reverse the decision, since it had promised there will be no job losses in the takeover. The Pro MP adds the dismissal is an indictment on the Bank of Ghana and they must work to redeem their image.
It comes to me as a shock. It raises issues of integrity of the whole body politic, integrity of the regulatory authorities, regulatory bodies, and in this particular case, that of Bank of Ghana. The whole nation was assured when this transaction was being consumed that it will not lead to job losses. Of course, some of us took that with a pinch of salt. Every consolidation, every measure leads to some loss of jobs, especially at the management level. That we were prepared to countenance. But we've gotten to a place where it is not just management, but it is ordinary workers. And I believe that it leaves much to be desired. I believe the people of Ghana have been let down in this very difficult employment environment, letting go trained, competent staff, contrary to promises made before the takeover or the merger, is unacceptable, unethical, and I believe unprofessional.
So for those that have happened already, what's your expectation? A reversal of the dismissals?
An appeal to Ghana, to GCB really, to reconsider and for it to redeem its image. Banking is a question of integrity. Banking is morality. Banking is ethics. If you can go back on your words in such a short time, within a matter of 2 months, you go back on your words, then how can we take you serious? How assured that even our investments are safe if you can go back on your words so soon?
Right, so my colleague George Riafi has been doing some digging on the things, on what's happening at GCB, and it turns out that we probably are not going to be seeing that figure or that number of workers of the two defunct banks being let go. George, what have you been able to establish as far as the number of workers who have been affected in this exercise?
So what I've established is that workers of the two banks put together a little over 1,000 of them. What we understand is that as at yesterday, about 100 has been asked to go home. And that could be the first phase of the entire redundancy program that GCB wants to undertake.
What category of workers do these 100 employees for?
Some are cleaners, drivers, clerical workers, and even top-line managers, because what we understand was that because of this acquisition or what they will call selected acquisition. You have a situation where you can be having about 4 financial controllers, and the bank might just need maybe 2 of them. So some of these top line managers are being also asked to go home. And that is why we're seeing this number. What we understand that for instance, Capital, we're looking at a little over 47, and then maybe GCB about a UT Capital that were brought into their fold, about 70 of them, and they've been asked that, okay, we don't need your services. And that's a mixture of these drivers, cleaners, and those who are also holding the higher national diploma, which GCB says they don't actually have these staff on their books as full-time employers. Normally they move on to contract status. But again, the caveat here is that there'll be several rounds of redundancy that the bank is going to carry out after they complete their, what they call the skills audit, to establish that, okay, Israel, I think I need your skills, therefore I would not allow you to go. But for those ones that we don't need their skills, it's likely they will ask you to go home. And that is why we've seen this 100 people being asked to go home. But again, what has brought about all these problems, Israel? Because the initial communication from the bank was that we will start that process 6 months after the acquisition.
All right. And that acquisition it appears it's happening earlier than the 6 months.
Again, what we are picking up from those who matter or with knowledge of this whole transaction is that because we are not supposed to have people with HND and these drivers on our books, we're forced to start the process earlier than what we have projected to start this redundancy program.
Are you able to estimate or project from the people you've been speaking with as to how many workers eventually of this 1,000 that they took on that they're going to let go?
Again, when you engage these managers, it's a difficult answer to give it to you right now, because until they complete that audit of the skills, it will be difficult to give you a number. But if you extrapolate and you do your projections, we wouldn't have maybe more than half of these workers going home, because they claim that they might need some of these hands after that audit is completed. And if indeed there are about 1,000, maybe you could have about half of them going home and the remaining being kept with the bank.
Now these workers, you say about 100 that are being let go.
As of yesterday.
As of yesterday. Are they going to be getting any severance at all?
Okay, so how did this whole thing happen? There was what they call a selected acquisition. So GCB was asked to take some of the good assets of the 2 banks, whilst a receiver was appointed, PwC, to come in and manage maybe the toxic assets. So what PricewaterhouseCoopers, the accounting firm, is doing is that not necessarily the fiscal assets of the bank, but are there loans that certain people are servicing that we can restructure that loan and realize the money? Are there some government papers that they hold and all the rest that we can sell it off to other banks and realize some money? And that is why we're looking at the liquidation here. Now, when it comes to the law about liquidation and all those things, there are certain category of creditors you need to deal with. So, for instance, if let's say the banks were exposed to Israel lie maybe about $50 billion. Rough estimates here, and they have to deal with that creditor first. It means that others below that line would not get anything. And that is where we are getting from the receiver that a lot of the workers of these defunct banks may go home with nothing, because the law just compels them to deal with salary arrears. And as of August or September this year, all arrears have been cleared. So if you're a worker of UT or Capital, pray that they might realize more than what they were supposed to.
So that
and if you're paying the top line creditors, some would remain to pay off these workers when it comes to their severance.
All right, thank you very much, George Rafi. And it doesn't sound like very pleasant news to those workers who are being laid off. The Federal Republic of Germany has commemorated 27 years of its unification, recognizing the power of unity and calling for removal of non-tangible walls. Germans believe the uniting East and West Germany is crucial in attaining that country's status as one of the wealthiest in Europe. Speaking in our weekly crossover to our partners DW in Germany, correspondent Rupert Wetherwald tells my colleague Gifty Andwapia, even though the physical walls of Berlin came down 27 years ago, there are still imaginary walls to overcome, even as many, including the German president, call for a migration policy for Germany. He spoke earlier on the Pulse.
When in 1990 the two Germanys were unified, there was a free democratic West Germany with a very successful free market economy going together with an East Germany which had been under communist rule for more than 40 years, a dictatorship, and it had a ruined economy which was not at all competitive. Today, 27 years later, you can't really spot the difference if you visit cities like Dresden, Jena or Leipzig in East Germany, all of them thriving with activity, new infrastructure and very modern industries. And East German politicians have made it all to the top. Chancellor Angela Merkel, for instance, and former federal president Joachim Gauck, both are from the former East. There's one thing that unites the East and West voters. A large minority chose to vote for a far-right party which is loudly outspoken against Merkel's refugee policy, against open society and against progressive policies like gender equality or gay marriage. They chose the far-right option out of protest. And this puts issues back on the agenda that have not been debated for too long. That Germany needs to honestly define what kind of migration is needed and wanted, and how could this be achieved. This country still does not have an overall immigration law. He called out for such a law because many, especially from Africa or the Middle East or even Southeastern Europe, try to enter Germany using the asylum laws, although they do not apply for people who want to go to Germany to find a better future economically. So this all comes with all the problems we have seen in the past. People undertaking huge risks traveling to Europe, an overburdened administration here in Germany, and frustrated migrants who are denied asylum after all and get stranded somewhere as illegal aliens.
Now, the Volta region town of Ehi near Georgia made the headlines recently after it hosted Ghana's first ever grand funeral for a dog. There have been instances where Ghanaian dog owners will dig a grave and have a short ceremony to see off their family pets. But Stephen Natachi went the whole 9 yards for his dog's funeral. The dog was in a morgue for a month, and there was a 26-page order of service for the funeral, which was witnessed by mourners, including a group from South Africa. That story is well documented. But what's it with the town that stopped for the funeral of a dog? Joy News' Volta region correspondent Fred Kwame Asari visited Ehi to learn more about why the late Fofoe, the historical dog, means so much to them.
With a population of about 3,500, Ehi is a predominantly farming community in the Kettle North district of the Volta region. Though some communities in the Volta region reportedly forbid the keeping of dogs at home, Ehi is an exception. It is home to hundreds of dogs, including the now deceased Fofoe. Fofoe's owner tells me the 23-year-old dog became part of the family when it was only a puppy. It was named Fofoe, meaning found, when it was recovered after it went missing for months. A former presiding member of the Kettle North district, Stephen Atachi, tells me Fofoe is one of the most valuable of the inheritance his late mother left him many years ago.
He's a lawyer to the family. He's an animal you can trust, a type of dog. When you give instruction, he delivers the message. He knows the family members.
He describes how Fofoe met its untimely death in this very compound he lived all his life. Its funeral had all the trappings, a 26-page order of service with the dog's biography. There was a wakekeeping on the night of Friday, September 22nd, followed up the next day with a funeral ceremony that lasted the whole day and was witnessed by virtually all town folks as well as many dignitaries who traveled from afar. The Dufia of Ehi, Togbi Jebele Adukpo, and his elders were also present.
I support it because what that funeral is bringing to Ehi is very great. We want a veterinary clinic to be established at Ehi so that it can help the southern sector of Volta region so that our animals can be treated.
Some family members and friends still hold fond memories of Fofoe.
Fofoe was an exceptional dog. It was friendly with everybody in the neighborhood. It was loved by all. I remember he almost bit me when I was entering the house, but upon sniffing me, it stopped, shook its tail, and laid down.
But not everyone in the community was fond of this historic dog. There is the story of a pork dealer in the community who on 2 occasions made an attempt on the life of Fofui.
The first one, we didn't take it seriously. And the second one, he rather went to the police to report the case to the police station. And he be the complainant, turned to be a accused person. We've been in the court 15 good times, and the close of the day belongs to Fofui. And they compensate Fofui 500 Ghana cedi, 500 Ghana cedi to the family, and 300 Ghana cedi to the state.
Mr. Tachi is not done eulogizing his favorite dog. He says beyond the grand funeral, he is building a veterinary that will be named after Fofui to provide proper clinical care for pets.
The dog funeral.
Fofui's tomb, meanwhile, has since become a tourist attraction, drawing people from all over. This is the final resting place for the mortal remains of Fofui, a dog that will continue to remain in the hearts of many, especially residents here in Ehi. Mr. Stephen Atachi told me he decided to bury Fofui in his compound because per the traditions and customs of the Ehi community, elders are buried in the compound or at the forecourt of their homes. Hence his decision to bury Fofui at home because he recognizes Fofui as an elder of his family. Fred Kwame Asari, reporting for Joy News.